Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our weekly update. I'm pleased, as always, to be joined by Dr. Lawrence Lowe, our Chief Medical Officer of Health, Darren Rizzi, who is our Fire Chief and our Director of Emergency Management, Sam Rogers, our Director of Enforcement, and this week, I'm extremely honored to be joined by GIMA Chief Stacey Laforme, elected Chief of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who will be speaking about the horrific discovery at the residential school in Kamloops and what more needs to be done to achieve true reconciliation. I first want to start by wishing everyone a happy Pride Month. In Mississauga, we celebrate and embrace our 2SLGBTQ+ community. Diversity, equity, respect, inclusion are at the core of our city's identity. I'm proud that on June 15th, we will be lighting our clock tower, multicolors, and raising the pride flag high here at City Hall. Although we can't gather together this year as we normally do, we still have big plans to celebrate our 2SLGBTQ+ community. On June 15th, I will be hosting a virtual Pride celebration with Fluffy Souffle, a Toronto drag performer who is passionate about supporting 2SLGBTQ+ families and gender-variant children. We also have a great author who will be speaking about art and other initiatives. Please visit mississauga.ca/pride for more information about these upcoming events. And now on the COVID front. I'm so proud of how far we've come these last few months. We've made huge strides in lowering our case counts and flattening the curve. Peel is averaging 100 cases per 100,000, and that's down from 171 cases per 100,000 just 1 week ago. Mississauga is averaging 81 cases per 100,000, and that's down from 147 just 1 week ago. We haven't seen case counts this low since mid-February, early March, or even last November. Our R factor, which tells you how many people a COVID-positive individual will infect in our community, now sits at 0.66. I'm also very relieved that the situation at our hospitals is stabilizing even further. Trillium has 50 COVID hospitalized patients, 19 in the ICU, and another 88 that are suspected cases. William Osler has 50 hospitalizations, 15 patients in the ICU, and another 58 suspected cases of COVID. All of this progress has been made because of you and the sacrifices that you have made, because you've listened to the advice of public health, and of course, because you have gone to get vaccinated. In Peel, 72% of residents 18+ have received at least one dose, well beyond the provincial target of 65%. And 30% of our 12 to 17-year-olds have received one dose. That's more than 1.1 million people here in Peel. I'm very grateful for the huge take-up in vaccination. Thank you, Dr. Lowe and his team at Peel Public Health, to our hospital partners, our firefighters, our paramedics, and all of the volunteers for helping get shots in arms. This has been a historic effort. Our focus now is reaching our most vulnerable residents, those least likely to have gone to a mass vaccination centre, through pop-up offerings. Pop-ups in Mississauga currently offering the vaccine to everyone 12+ include the Canada Post pop-up at 4567 Dixie Road, the Meadowvale Islami Walk-In Centre at their masjid, Jamaat rather, 7037 Financial Drive, and the Dawoodi Bora Community Clinic at 6635 Campobello Road. I urge everyone to book their vaccine as soon as possible. The easiest way to book your vaccine is by visiting peelregion.ca/COVID-19 vaccine or by calling 905-791-5202. Getting the vaccine is the best way to protect yourself, to protect your loved ones, and to protect the entire community. The good news is that we've made huge progress in getting first doses to the majority of our adults. But I'm very concerned about the prevalence of the new variant first detected in India, the B.1.617, known now as the Delta variant. Ontario is reporting more and more cases of the Delta variant, and unfortunately, Peel Region has the highest concentration in the province with 97 cases. Dr. Lowe says within the month, the Delta variant could become the dominant strain in Peel, replacing the B.1.1.7, originating in the UK, now known as the Alpha variant. Vaccine effectiveness against the Delta is only 33 to 50% with the first dose, but 88 to 92% effective with the second dose. So we cannot afford to allow this new variant to take hold in our community and cause the rise of a fourth wave. Right now, we're on the cusp of beginning to reopen our restaurant patios on June 14th, or perhaps even earlier, the Premier has suggested. We're on the cusp of opening limited in-person shopping with 15% capacity for our hardest hit small retailers, on the cusp of opening our summer camps for our children who have suffered so greatly during this pandemic, and on the cusp of opening outdoor fitness classes too. And we can't put all that at risk. And that's why I'm calling on the province today to prioritize hotspot regions like Peel for second doses. Second doses have already opened up for 80-plus-year-olds, but we need a strategy that prioritizes everyone in hotspots to prevent the potential fourth wave. We have too many essential businesses and essential workers in Peel working in our factories, our warehouses, our food processing, and our packaging plants. The initial strategy of shipping 50% of all vaccines to hotspots during the first 2 weeks of May was incredibly effective. It allowed us to quickly open vaccines to everyone 18 plus and now 12 plus. It helped all of Ontario get out of the third wave. It helped us get to the point where we are now, close to seeing reopenings right across Ontario. But Peel is only receiving 9% of the province's vaccines, yet we represent more than 20% of all cases in Ontario. By getting residents in hotspots their second doses faster, we'll protect the entire province from a potential fourth wave spurred by the new Delta variant. Prioritizing hotspots for second doses is something Dr. Peter Uni, Scientific Director for Ontario's Science Advisory Table, has also called for. I understand that the Science Table will also be releasing formal recommendations about a hotspot strategy for second doses in the coming days. Prioritizing hotspots is a winning strategy against this virus, and I'm urging the province to do the right thing. A second dose strategy is critical for helping businesses stay open once we enter the first step of the province's reopening plan. It will ensure that we're able to enter phase 2 as soon as possible, where we can see even more reopenings like personal care providers who have been closed here in Peel since November 23rd. Our small business community has been hit so very hard. They have been a huge casualty of this COVID nightmare. My biggest frustration is that here in the city, we couldn't provide more financial support for businesses. We simply don't have the financial firepower that the federal and the provincial governments do. But we're doing everything we can. I was very happy that yesterday at City Council, we reduced our business licensing fees by 50%, up to a maximum of $300 for all businesses who have been forced to close during the pandemic. This, of course, includes our restaurants, our hair and nail salons, spas, tattoo shops, and driving schools. And it is my hope that this reduction provides some financial relief for our businesses. I can't wait for restaurants to reopen and patio dining to start up and for our retailers to open again with limited in-person shopping. I can't wait for our salon owners to finally get the chance to open their doors once again. When businesses open, I want them to stay open. No more lockdowns. And I'll say it again, I believe the best way to ensure that this happens is by prioritizing hotspots like Peel for second doses. Yesterday, we learned that schools will remain closed for in-class learning for the remainder of the school year. I recognize that this was a tough decision that the province had to make. I had supported returning to in-class learning because the medical officers of health and so many experts supported it and said that the risks were manageable. However, given the very rapid recent rise of the Delta variant here in Peel, I believe that keeping school closed for the following 3 weeks is the right call. Many residents also expressed to me that it wasn't worth taking the risk at this point for only 3 weeks of in-class learning. That keeping schools closed would ensure children have a normal summer where they can go to camp and be with their friends. I'm very thankful that so many residents spoke up about the issue and thankful to the province for providing clarity and certainty so that parents can plan. I do recognize how disappointed some parents and children are with the decision to keep schools closed because of the impact school closures have had on mental health and well-being. I'm very hopeful for a fresh start in the fall and a return to in-class learning with no disruptions. Mississauga, we're getting closer and closer to getting back to some semblance of normal. But please go out and get vaccinated. Follow the advice of public health, and please keep the faith. Keep the faith that all the hard work that we've put into this will pay off. And now, I'd like to invite Dr. Lawrence Loh to the podium to provide his update. Dr. Loh?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning. Mississauga's weekly incidence rate for COVID-19 currently stands at 81 per 100,000, with a test positivity of 7.8%. Things are starting to look favorable, but we cannot grow complacent. I urge our residents to remain vigilant despite the improvements in our trends. Like all of you, I too want to exit out of the acute phase of the pandemic and enter a new reality where COVID is no longer the novel threat that it is today. But here's the situation, and we've been here before somewhat, where between the second and third waves, we saw B.1.1.7, now called the Alpha strain, replace the previously dominant wild-type strain of COVID-19. That Alpha strain then drove significant misery during the third wave that we just endured through April and May. And as that third wave resolves, our science table colleagues have advised that we are now seeing a similar replacement pattern with more and more B.1.6.1.7 in the Peel community, known as the Delta variant, originally detected in India. The Alpha variant is receding, but the Delta variant is increasing more and more, with 97 cases detected to date in Peel since surveillance for this variant started at the beginning of May. The science table's analyses, which are preliminary, show that Peel is ahead in this replacement. The Delta variant is anticipated to be the dominant variant in Peel within 4 weeks and within 8 weeks in the rest of Ontario. We must thus remain careful, and we cannot afford a fourth wave driven by the Delta variant in our community. Fortunately, the one thing that is different now and in our favor is that we do have broad one-dose vaccination coverage. 72% of our adults 18 plus at our last count, and over 40% of our youth aged 12 to 17. And this is really a testament and thanks not only to the teams that continue to vaccinate steadily out of all of our clinics and our hospital partners and out in the community, but to all of you in the community who have rolled up your sleeves and made the sensible choice to take a vaccine that is safe and effective and is going to make a difference. Our numbers of doses administered continue to grow, along with second doses that are being delivered more and more, starting with our 80-plus population as of this week. But we will need to move quickly to provide second doses if we are to stay ahead of this specific variant, the Delta variant. Data from the United Kingdom shows that 2 doses are most effective against this Delta variant, but that's 2 doses, not only 1. We haven't seen a surge yet, and that's a good thing because it means we still have time to get ahead of this as best as we can. Our current measures are keeping things under control, and as we gradually move towards reopening, we must ensure that it is gradual, as the risk of resurgence is real if we only have widespread first dose coverage. And that means that even though the stay-at-home order expired yesterday, we need to stand strong and finish the job. We cannot let up. For the moment, we must limit contact and interactions, reopen gradually, and vaccinate steadily towards widespread 2-dose coverage at 75% and then beyond to avoid any setback or delay. So I encourage you in the community, if you have not gotten your first shot, get your first shot. Take anything that is provided to you, whether it's Pfizer or, as I received, Moderna. Each needle is making a difference for all of us. Waiting leaves you vulnerable. Waiting leaves those you love and your community vulnerable also. And if you have had your first shot again, I thank you. Please access your second shot as soon as you are able. And finally, with the science tables analyses showing the growth of the Delta variant in Ontario, Peel Public Health and our hospital partners stand ready to ramp up capacity again and to reach our most vulnerable with vaccines in rushing to quickly get to 2-dose coverage. Our dialogue with provincial partners continues, and I'm hopeful that we will hear if communities seeing greater Delta variant activity like ours might be prioritized for second doses. It's the best way to protect not only our residents, but all of Ontario. With our third wave receding, I believe we have a chance here to vaccinate to 2 doses and prevent a 4th wave to ensure that we can continue to move towards reopening. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Mayor Crombie.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. Like so many people across this country, I was shocked and saddened by the discovery of the remains of 215 children on the grounds of a residential school in Kamloops, British Columbia. It is a reminder of a very dark chapter in Canadian history, but also reminds us that we have so much more work to do in this country to truly achieve reconciliation. While this atrocity occurred in the past, it is incumbent on us right now to strengthen our relationships, our respect, our understanding of Indigenous communities across Canada. With June being Indigenous History Month, we dedicate this time to remembering and honoring all the children who never made it home from residential school, all of their families, and the survivors who continue to share their stories. We must all commit to learning more about the Indigenous community members and their lasting contributions to Canada. And on that note, I would like to turn over the podium to our special guest, Gima Stacey Laforme, who I invited here today to talk about the impact of his horrific discovery has had on the Indigenous communities members and what more needs to be done to build a lasting and meaningful reconciliation. And with that, Gima Laforme, Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Gima Stacey Laforme, Mississauga is the credit of the Mississauga Nation, of the Anishinaabe people. You know, the way you led into this conversation, this may seem a strange thing to do at a press conference or your press conference you're holding, but you know, when I was originally heard about 215 children found on Thursday evening, I was struck by pain and grief profoundly, and it felt so personal to me that I asked my wife, "Why does this feel so personal? This is something." And I was angry. as well as sad. And so the next day I ran into more people and I heard the same thing, that this feels so personal and the pain is so strong. And then of course there was anger again. And so I wrote a poem that I think captures the way, instead of trying to tell you that all that process, how we feel, I wrote something called Reconciliation that I'm actually going to read to you leading into this. I sit here crying. I don't know why. I didn't know the children. I didn't know the parents. But I knew their spirit. I knew their love. I know their loss. I know their potential. And I am overwhelmed by the pain and the hurt, the pain of the families and friends, the pain of an entire people, unable to protect them, to help them, to comfort them, to love them. I did not know them, but the pain is so real, so personal. I feel it in my core, my heart, my spirit. I sit here crying, and I'm not ashamed. I will cry for them and the many others like them. I will cry for you. I will cry for me. I'll cry for the what could have been. Then I will calm myself, smudge myself, offer prayers, and know they are no longer in pain. Know they no longer hurt. They are at peace. In time, I will tell their story. I will educate society so their memory is not lost to this world. And when I am asked, what does reconciliation mean to me? I will say, I want their lives back. I want them to live, to soar. I want to hear their laughter, see their smiles. Give me that, and I'll give you reconciliation. So that poem was born out of grief, a little bit of anger, and very, very truthful. And this is not the last time we're going to find this happening on undergrounds and residential schools. We're going to find more. There's going to be more pain. And yes, we want to see all residential schools grounds checked. Yes, we want accountability and more. And we ask that the people of this country stand with us as we demand this from the governments. But at this moment, this is a time to show love, respect, offer support, and to grieve. There are moments in the lives of countries that determine how that country will move forward. And I believe this is such a moment. And so it's very important that you understand that these are not just the children of the Indigenous people. These are the children of this country. These are all our children. And the pain you feel is because we're all connected. And on some level, you realize that, or at least your spirit does. I once wrote another poem called, I Don't Have to Know You to Love You. And in this moment, never has that been more real, because there are so many of you out there who feel this pain and who love those children and want to do what's right. So I think this whole country needs a time to come together, to stand together, to recognize our connections, and to start doing things in a better way. I think this tragedy gives us a moment to reflect and come together and start moving in a good manner forward. So I want to say that when you express your respect and your love and your grief, that you don't have to do it through my ceremonies. You can do it through any ceremony. You can do it through your own. As long as it has real meaning to you, it's okay. I want to say that I, along with others, will be putting together a ceremony in a not too distant future, and we will be asking everybody to participate in some fashion. It may not be in person. It may be through videos, but I think it's important that we stand together and we show the world that, we recognize the moment we're in, not only in this country, but in the world. And it is time to start doing things better, to start recognizing each other, to start doing away with racism and divisiveness, and to start coming together and solving our issues. So also beyond this call for you to come and stand with us in the ceremony, we'll be asking that you try to understand, and I think this gives you a good perspective on the genocide that was perpetrated on the Indigenous people. And the breadth of work, when you talk about reconciliation, the breadth of work that still needs to be done to get to reconciliation. So this gives you an understanding of just how deep, how hurtful and painful the history of this country is. And not just on the Indigenous, this is all our history. Whether you were here 100 years or whether you got here yesterday, this is now where you live. This is now part of your journey, part of your history. So I wanted to say that I appreciated the mayors and lieutenant governor and all the organizations and all the people that reach out to express their respect and support and wanting to understand how do we do something? How do we move this forward? And there are going to be things we can do. We're in the moment, and when we're in the moment, there's things that always have to be done. Absolutely, we need to look at all the residential schools. We need to look and see if there's more children. We need to try and connect them with the families that they've been disconnected with somehow. And we need to do that work. We need to see support for those families. But right this moment, we need to stand together, understand what we're all feeling, and recognize that we need to grieve for these children as a country. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you, Gima. Thank you for your very powerful message. I'm so grateful that you joined me today to share your pain and your grief and your sorrow. And I just want to let you know that you can count on us here in Mississauga in the healing process and in the reconciliation. Thank you. Oof. And now any of us, including Chief Stacey Laforme, Gima Laforme, Sam Rogers, Dr. Lowe, or Darren Rizzi, we're all here available to take media questions. Thank you.
Your first question comes from Natasha O'Neill at The Pointer. Go ahead, Natasha.
Good morning, Madam Mayor.
Good morning.
I want to ask about the city's stormwater diversion plan, which seems very fitting on today. Something that was brought to my attention via an environmentalist was the fact that the city doesn't have any green roof bylaws for buildings that have flat roofs. Is this something council is considering doing maybe sometime in the near future?
So I'll be honest with you, Natasha, with respect to the stormwater diversion program, you know that we have the stormwater levy, which we use to ensure that our storm water drains and erosion programs are well maintained and well funded. And with respect to the green roofs, you know, I'll have to get back to you. I would think that we do have a program that would speak to that, but let me verify and get you the information that you're looking for.
Follow-up?
Fantastic, thank you. I also was digging through some old reports, one that the University of Waterloo did. It's 2015, however. They gave Mississauga a C+ in flood preparedness. Would you say that now in 2021, the city is a little bit more prepared?
Oh, absolutely. Natasha, again, what year was that?
2015.
Yeah, so immediately following, we took action, and that's when we imposed the stormwater levy. So we have a dedicated levy that goes into a reserve fund that's allocated directly towards all the maintenance of any damage related to storms and flooding. And I'm very proud of that. In fact, Mississauga is a leader in that respect. So I'm sure that has changed significantly from 2015.
Your next question comes from Steve Cornwell at the Mississauga News. Go ahead, Steve.
Welcome, Steve.
Mayor Crombie, how are you?
I'm very well. I hope you are as well.
I'm doing okay. I wanted to ask, perhaps for you and Dr. Lowe, given the prevalence of the Delta variant in Peel, if there isn't a prioritized plan in place for Peel hotspots, kind of by the start of reopening this month, would you advocate for restrictions to remain in place on outdoor gatherings, restaurant patios, and kind of non-essential retail, which are slated to open up? And also, just a quick follow-up, if I can, what elements would you like to see as part of a prioritized plan for second doses?
I truly hope there will be a strategy for second doses which will prioritize the region of Peel. It is the right thing to do, and I think the province realized that not long ago when we were allocated 50% of the vaccine in May so that we could kickstart our vaccination program, and we did so, and there's a recognition that unless Peel, we stop the spread of the virus here in Peel, the rest of the province cannot get back to normal. So I suspect there will be a second dose strategy for residents in Peel. Of course, we're home to all the essential workers, home to factories and plants and food processing, warehousing, etc. And it's the right thing to do. So I know the province will do the right thing. With respect to further restrictions, you know, we now have a plan. We've provided clarity and certainty on reopening. Everyone is aware that they have to continue to be cautious and follow the advice of public health. But we are all looking forward to the reopening of safe spaces, including outdoor recreation, outdoor fitness, outdoor patios, limited in-store shopping, etc. And I think this risk can be managed as long as we continue our vaccination plan, our vaccination rollout and strategy. We're encouraging everyone to go out and get vaccinated, particularly when your number is called for your second dose. Please sign up. I would suggest that if there is a no-show rate, I know that Toronto was reporting a 3% no-show. We can ask Dr. Lowe what ours is here, that we open it up further. If 80 plus is not signing up, let's go to 70 plus. Let's go to 60 plus. Let's make sure whoever wants that second vaccine has access to it. That is the best way to stem the tide of the fourth wave. And so I do not have plans for further restrictions or another lockdown. I want this to be the last lockdown that we see. I'll allow Dr. Lowe to respond to. Thank you for the question, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. Thanks, Steve, for the question. I certainly share the desire for this to be the last set of restrictions and measures that are in place in our community. And I think there's a recognition as well that our community has been in measures amongst other communities in Ontario the longest. So I think that actually adds more, justification, especially as we are seeing the proportion of the Delta variant that is unfolding in our region, the fact that we are leading the rest of the province. This is really about trying to get ahead of something that is actually foreseen now. We are not at a situation where we're at our third wave trying to build sandbags, as the storm surge is rolling in. We see the storm coming, and we know where it's going to land. It is going to land in the region of Peel within the next few weeks. And so I think just recognizing how long our community has been here and all these other pieces, I'm hopeful. And I know there are other communities in Ontario that are also seeing, activity with the Delta variant starting to increase. We know that two-dose coverage is effective. We saw this in the UK, in Bolton, where they rushed in second doses into that community to tamp down a surge. I think, based on, I'll be keen to see on the specifics of the strategy what the science table recommends. But the most important thing to remember is that, it's not about just protecting residents in Peel. This is about, ultimately protecting all of us in Ontario. And so it's, summer's here. I would liken it to, you're driving up Highway 400 and you see that there's a crash up ahead. You could either head straight into that crash or you can get off and take the side road. So I think we have an opportunity to get off, take the side road, and hopefully sidestep a fourth wave, not just in Peel, but for the province of Ontario if we revisit the science table's recommendations and a second dose strategy. Thanks for the question.
Follow-up, Steve?
Yeah, my follow-up's actually for Chief Laforme, if he's available.
Is the chief still with us?
Sure. Yes.
Hi, Chief. You spoke about the need for the entire country to grieve and stand together in the wake of this terrible finding in Kamloops. I'm curious, what do you see as the role of municipalities like Mississauga in ensuring kind of meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous people and ensuring it keeps moving forward?
It's huge. When I made the call to the Prime Minister to lower the flags to express the pain and the respect, I also reached out to mayors that I had contact with, and I asked them, will you lower your flag, give the reasons. And I had mayors tell me immediately, consider it done. Of course we'll do this. So they don't wait on the federal government to say, "Oh, lower your flag," like just across the country. They responded immediately by doing what they thought was right. The relationship we build with the municipalities has, strengthened the friendship that we share. So that relationship is very important to continue down this road that we call reconciliation, because this is on the ground. The government's great for putting things in perspective and making it go across the nation and saying things, but it's people on the ground that make it happen. I mean, if we're talking about the issues that Indigenous people face, if we're standing there alone, we have less chance of succeeding. But if we're standing there with our neighbors and friends, the people who vote for these politicians, that makes a world of difference. So there's a lot of on the ground relationship building that needs to happen, so it gets stronger and we can accomplish a lot more when we stand together.
Your next question, Mayor Crombie, comes from Pooja Luthra at Y Media. Go ahead, Pooja. Pooja, are you there? Pooja, are you there? All right, we'll move on to another question. Our next question comes from Steve Picard at Mississauga. Go ahead, Steve. I'm just going to try to unmute him. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. The question is for Chief LaForme. And the question is, what issues does your community face today that people should be made aware of?
That's a good one. My people face many of the same issues that across the First Nation. Last year was the completion of our water line. So up until then, we did not have good potable water within our First Nation. So last year we got it in. We have a population that goes beyond the ability of our infrastructure and our schools and our other services to work with. They're simply growing too fast to deal with those types of things, and we don't have the same funding that is provided to off reserve through the other systems. We have, during the pandemic, it's certainly been a little more challenging, but we've had more loss of life and suicides in the First Nation than we have in a very, very long time. And other First Nations that are facing the same. We still have the issues of missing and murdered women. We still have violence against women on a higher scale. Our children are still in care at a higher level than Canadian society. More of our people are in the prison systems than, like 45% of the Indigenous people make up the prison systems, and we're 2% of the population. So we have tons of issues that are one of the issues that I want people to understand is our people were water people. We lived on the water. We depended on the water for travel, for food, for spirituality, for a number of things. And we've been locked here on the reserve for 100 years and haven't had access to our own water systems and our own treaty lands, because of the way things are structured. There are more things that I could probably name, but I haven't sat down and wrote them out for this interview. And it was a good question, though. I think that more people should get to understand who their neighbors are. We have, when you think about municipalities and First Nations, there are things that First Nations can work with through the government that municipalities can't. And there are things that municipalities can do that First Nations can't. So to me, it just screams to be a very powerful and dynamic relationship. So I think building relations with our neighbors is very, very important. I know I sort of jumped back to the other question, but it was on my mind as we were talking about this as well. So I want to complete that thought.
Follow-up, Steve?
I guess the question is to the mayor then. What can the city of Mississauga, the city named after these people, what can it do moving forward? I know people are looking backwards and reflecting on what happened in the past, but how can the city of Mississauga help now?
Right. Well, I will tell you that we have an outstanding relationship, Guima Laforme, myself, the City of Mississauga, and the people of the First Nations of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Our city is named for them, and we'll soon be celebrating 50 years of our 50-year anniversary, our 50-year birthday. And the chief, Guima Laforme, and the First Nations community, we will celebrate together. We will have a big celebration that will involve all First Nations people. And he and I have been speaking about different opportunities where we can work closer together, through joint events, joint celebrations. And it makes sense since we are named for his people.
Your next question comes from Khalid Salama at My Second Home TV. Go ahead, Khalid.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Khalid.
Thank you. I want to know how many residential schools we had in Mississauga and Peel, and also the question to Chief Laforme, what would be the only thing that makes all Indigenous community feel okay after what happened?
You know, I think this is a question better addressed to Chief Laforme, but I don't believe we had a residential school. As you know, we're a very young city, so I don't believe there was one here in Mississauga or in Peel region, but let's ask Guima Laforme if he could respond, if that's okay, Khalid.
Thank you.
Yeah, the closest residential school that I'm aware of would be the Brant Institute one that's in Brantford. And that's where many of the Six Nations, many of the Mississaugas went. So that one's the closest. I'm not aware of any that were in Mississauga or the Peel area, but I'm certainly no expert on this. The second part of that question, I didn't quite catch it because it was breaking up.
Yeah, Khalid, do you want to repeat the second part of your question?
Sure. What would be the only thing that would make all Indigenous community feel okay after all these atrocities we know about?
Wow, that's a very difficult question to answer. First off, the pain and the suffering that is intergenerational is never going to go away. It's going to be something that we're always aware of, and it's always going to be a part of who we are, because, as you know, those systems carry on for many generations. Not only in the spirit, but in the practicality of things. You have people coming back from residential schools who no longer spoke their language and could no longer speak to their grandparents or their parents, and you had people raised in a system who came home and didn't know how to love anymore, to express those feelings, raising other children and generations of children. So the concrete and physical side of things that happen to those children happen to many generations of people, and that trauma is inside of all those people. That's why people are so angry and hurt by the discovery of this 215 children. Even though on some level we were aware that there were going to be children found, it's one thing to think and be aware of something in your mind. It's another thing to be faced with that reality and have it right there in front of you at the moment, and that's very challenging. I think that part of the journey for Indigenous people is to be brought up to par with the rest of society, that we need to be, and I'm not talking about, people talk about equitable funding, which means that we're funded at the same rate for our programs and services as the province or the feds. That's fine, but you got to realize that there is a gap in First Nation communities and Canadian society. And if you keep funding that gap at the same level, you never close that gap. Certainly you don't allow it to get any further away. So we need to have funding, and equitable funding, that is not only that is needs-based, that brings us up to par with society, so that we're on the same level as society. Certainly the one of the healing parts of any story is understanding the whole history and have people understand it and treat you with respect. Oftentimes when we've raised the issue of racism and division within the country, it's talked about, it's deeply felt, and then it's forgotten. First off, we can't forget the history, because as I said, we are the sum of our parts, not just from the day we were born, but from the day our ancestors were born, and that's what makes us up today. So the answer of what can make us feel better, I don't think that there's any one answer to that. Certainly we want to be looked at as equal, and our systems and governments should be respected because they are different than Canadian structures. But the idea of healing that pain is, part a personal journey. And, you can learn, you can be supportive, you can be allies. And, but I think a big part is knowing that we are not alone in this, that Canadian society feels the same way we do, and we want to fix this.
The final question of the day, Pooja's actually written in, and this is for Dr. Lowe.
Perfect, thank you. I'll ask Dr. Lowe to come to the podium.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Peel Region has always been taking the lead in vaccinating people. Are you planning to open up second dose vaccine appointments for adults 70 plus ahead of schedule, especially in hotspot areas?
Yeah, it's a great question, Pooja. We've seen significant uptake amongst our 80-plus population at this point in time. And so we are continuing to monitor that, though, and if necessary, and especially if, we get prioritized for additional doses, we would certainly explore how best to continue moving through the province's identified second dose strategy, which, as you know, is 80-plus, 70-plus, and then starting with first in, first out, based on when people received their first dose between March and May. So thanks for the question.
And the follow-up for you, Dr. Lowe, as well, is how many people are fully vaccinated in Mississauga and in Peel?
So in Peel at this point in time, we have first dose coverage of approximately 72%, and we have second dose, i.e. completed vaccination coverage of 4%. And so this is really, highlighting that vital thing that I was describing. We're now, seeing the Delta variant replace the Alpha variant in our community, and we do know that 2 doses are most optimal to ensuring that the Delta variant does not get a foothold. We have international experiences from the UK that showed that moving to second doses quickly is a really significant preventive measure. And so I think just with the science table modeling, which I hope will be released at some point, soon, and our continued conversation with our provincial counterparts, that 4% we will quickly move, with additional supply to try to increase it. And while I'm on that topic, I would also add 75% is, certainly where our initial target is, but really the higher that goes, the more likely we are going to be able to restore as much as possible every aspect of our ordinary life. So if you're sitting on the fence, please go and get your first dose of vaccine. And if you've had your first dose already, please stand by and remember to get your second dose, because it's not a one and done deal. Thanks so much for the question.
Are there any further questions?
That's it for today, Mayor Crombie.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.